Welcome to the Happy Disruptors Podcast. If you're a creative thinker with an unconventional approach to your industry, you just might be a happy disruptor. Join your friends at the Great Outdoors Foundation for honest conversations about tackling critical issues like conservation with an uncritical disposition. If you like to smile and get things done, this is the podcast for you. Hi, welcome to the Happy Disruptors Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Hannah Inman, and today we have a new co-host.
I'm Hannah Dake.
We're going to be referring to her as HD, and we're really excited about today's episode. I would like to introduce Joy. Joy, why don't you say a couple words about yourself?
Hi, well, thanks for having me on, guys. My name is Joy van Wyngarden, and I'm just really an advocate for sustainable agriculture and conservation. Grew up in Iowa on a farm, and I do a little bit of content creation. I do a little bit of anything in that space right now.
Yeah, so we got to know Joy through your content creation on Instagram and TikTok, and just really loved your message, the content that you were creating. We felt that it was a missing niche in the content world, and so much about what we do. You recently shared a post with this caption, and I'm going to let Hannah Dake read it verbatim because I do think it really sets the tone and the stage for what we want to talk about today.
All right, here's your caption. Growing up on a farm meant growing up in nature, climbing trees, playing on hay bales, and spending endless summer days paddling my farm store kayak down a muddy river. Water has always been central to my life, moments and memories that shaped my imagination and love for the outdoors. And heck, the murky water never bothered me. Getting a little dirty was just part of being a farm kid. It wasn't until my curiosity for the outdoors grew that I noticed how modern agricultural practices were affecting my beloved muddy river. Soil erosion, declining water quality, and nutrient-depleted foods. And to be honest, I was a little heartbroken. How could an entire state of wonderful people be negatively impacting the natural resources that we all rely on to survive? Some see it as a paradox to support both water quality and large-scale agriculture, but it doesn't have to be. I don't like the consequences conventional ag can have on our resources, but I do believe large-scale commodities have their place. What I do believe is that as a farming community, we have a responsibility to improve soil health and water quality for everyone's sake. Natural resources shouldn't be political. Clean water shouldn't be political. Valuing nutrient-dense foods over just calorie-dense products shouldn't be political. In writing this, I feel convicted to raise awareness about the challenges in our conventional agricultural system because I refuse to look back wishing I had spoken up sooner. We can fix this. Together, we can work toward cleaner water, healthier food, and thriving, healthy families and communities. But I hope it's the carrot, not the stick, for all of our sakes.
So when we saw that, me especially, it was like, oh my gosh, is she in my head? This is what we wrestle with on a daily basis. And we really have a lot of aligned values. I do feel like these two things can coexist and they're not a zero-sum game. But it is such a hard line to walk and such a hard discussion to have because there's unnecessary polarization, this false dichotomy that ag and conservation can't exist together. And what are the roles of our food systems that were really built, post World War II and have evolved into something maybe different than what we need now. Can you share a little bit more about your experience with the Soil and Water Conservation District and now your content creation? How has your background influenced your perspectives?
Yeah, so my background at the SWCD was as a watershed coordinator. So I had a specific area, a watershed, where I was able to help cost share conservation practices for farmers. So anything really that was going to help with water quality or soil health, I was able to offer incentives and try to get people to plant cover crops, try no-till, things like that. And that kind of just opened up my whole bubble of possibilities of different impacts that those conservation practices actually have. I think sometimes we kind of forget that it's like, oh no, you planting cover crops really improves water quality and it really prevents soil erosion, and that makes a huge impact, especially down the line when we're talking about farming. And I just realized that all these wonderful practices and these impactful statistics that were coming from these practices were not getting attention and they weren't getting the proper exposure. And ultimately, marketing is everything and everything is marketing. And
there just wasn't marketing for conservation.
Right.
It's not like the cool, sexy toy that everyone's like, oh, check this out. It wasn't getting exposure. And I'm like, dude, if people don't talk about this, if people don't showcase this, if people do not understand the true impact of these conservation practices, not only short term, but also long term, it's never going to take off. We're not going to see the improvements at the pace that we need them to be in order to actually see a difference by the time my grandkids are like making a life for themselves. And I just realized that there was a gap there, and there wasn't a lot of people making content about conservation, both in the agriculture side. There was more so in like the wildlife side, the recreational side. There's a lot of people in that space, but when it came to conservation and agriculture, there was just this gap. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try. Like just put myself out there. And it was just kind of a learning process. And I just tried different things and looked at different ways to approach things until something really seemed to stick. And that's kind of how that got started.
And thank goodness you did. We're so happy.
Well, that's a perfect bridge to our next question about, you have a substantial online following. Congrats, it's very large. On just talking about conservation, the intersection of environmental conservation, regenerative ag, local food systems, and personal health. So how have you developed that coalition that can tolerate those nuances in those often divisive areas?
Well, I think they are divisive, but yet if you kind of stop and look, all of those systems and all those different things that I make content about are really intersected. So something as simple as farming that produces food that has an impact on our water quality, which has a really big impact on our health. I mean, those things are all connected, and they're really all huge factors when you start looking at a community as a whole. So whether you're looking at a small scale community or a large scale community, those things have a huge impact. And I just became a lot more aware of health, kind of after COVID as well. I had some like really big revelations myself and realized like, okay, I really want to focus on my health and true health and not just what like systems are telling me. And that kind of started a whole deep dive into that world. And then as I started discovering that, I realized, holy cow, agriculture is hugely impacting our health, and then also our water. But they can be a little polarizing. Like when you start looking at conventional agriculture and you start looking at conservation, we have this idea that they're split in two and they're like independent. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think pre-World War II, kind of like what you were saying, nature worked with agriculture and our system of agriculture worked together because everyone was really diversified. It really is very recent, like within the last 100 years that the ag system is turn into the giant that it is. And that's why we haven't always had these huge consequences of the soil erosion problem, the water quality issues, decreasing nutrient density in our food. These are semi-new issues. And when you look at when they started, it's essentially when technology started getting bigger, equipment started getting bigger, farms started getting bigger, everyone stopped being as diversified. And essentially the farms stopped recreating the natural system.
Right.
Like biomimicry, if you guys are familiar with that. It works in a system if you allow it to. And it's a very natural system. When you start looking at the carbon cycle, the water cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the system is really cool. Like not to get too sciencey and nerdy, but it's really dope how it all works. But then you start looking at the conventional system that's been created and you're like, well, no wonder it's broken. And I don't think it's to blame anyone. And that's really one thing that I've always tried to hammer on with my content is like, I am not here to point fingers and I'm not here to get angry and be polarizing and divisive, but this needs to be talked about. And it cannot be, we cannot beat around the bush about it. And I don't think it's something that we need to get at people's throats about, but I'm not willing to sit back and not say anything. So there's definitely like a game of how do you approach it and just trying to start the conversation because unfortunately a lot of people that live in the state have no idea about a lot of these issues. They're completely unaware of how bad our water quality was until this summer when that article came out, the Des Moines Water Works, that was a big issue. And then previously several years ago when Des Moines Water Works had that lawsuit, a lot of people were completely in the dark about water quality and why it even mattered. And then all of a sudden the news article came out about us being like the #1 increasing cancer rate in the entire country. And we're like, yay, we're #1 in pork and cancer. Okay, like, fantastic. So proud of that. But then that caught people's attention. And I was amazed at how many people were completely shocked by that.
Right.
Yeah.
They had absolutely no idea. And they wanted answers. They were demanding answers. And then I'm like, this is an opportunity to start that conversation and actually make positive change instead of just widen and make that gap even bigger.
Yeah. So how has the reaction been to dealing in all those really nuanced, that can be somewhat polarizing conversations? You touched on a few of them, conventional ag, water quality, health, all of that. All things that need to be talked about, but sometimes people are scared because it can be polarizing. So how has the reaction been for you for those conversations?
Honestly, overwhelmingly positive.
Really? That's great.
The people that disagree or are upset if they feel personally attacked, because typically that's what it is, right?
Yeah,
I'm not trying to attack anyone. I'm trying to attack some ideology that I think is poor and some systems that I don't think are helping people, but I'm never trying to attack a person.
Right.
So typically if anyone ever does respond poorly, it's just because they took it personally. They felt it was a personal attack, and I totally get that. And then I just respond with grace and kindness and just explain, and I always want to open up that conversation.
Right.
I never try to shut it down, because it's like, I absolutely respect your opinion. I absolutely know where you're coming from, because guess what? I was you.
Right.
I didn't know what cover crops were until I was in high school, and I asked my dad what they were, and he's like, "Well, they don't work." Very conventional guy, just like, they don't work. And I was like, okay, you listen to your dad. You're in high school, and you're like, okay, they don't work, I guess. So I totally get that, and I don't want it to ever be, you're wrong and I'm right. It's, let's look at what's happening. Let's actually look back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Let's look at our current water quality. Let's look at our soil health. Let's look at some data, and let's just start that conversation, because you and I want the same things.
Right.
We want a thriving Iowa. We don't want cancer. We want good food, and we want to be able to make money and not have our family starve. We want the same things.
Right.
We need to start working together and not working apart. And then we can actually make positive change. But it's going to hurt a little bit because it's new and it's different. And that always scares people. It's a disruptor, right? I think it's a happy disruptor. But it is a disruption.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for some people to let go of certain ideologies, because it has turned into a identity politics game.
Right.
And with farming, which I think if someone isn't from the farming community, one thing you have to understand about farmers is it is an identity. It is not a career. It is not a job. It is not something you clog in. It is their whole personality. And that's why I think when a lot of farmers come off or they retire, a lot of them we're seeing getting depression and having different mental illnesses and things come up. It's because they stepped away from their entire identity. So understanding that you have to approach it differently and having that conversation, a lot of farmers will take it personally because it is their identity. You're not just attacking their work. You're not just attacking something they like. It is everything about them. And that's where I think it is such a hard thing to address and sometimes have those conversations.
I mean, you bring up a good point, because I think sometimes the not recognizing that farming is more than just a job, and for people not to understand, what it means to be a farmer, that it's not just 9 to 5, that you're living oftentimes in your working environment. It is all consuming, and it is a lifestyle. When we start to talk about solutions, if you don't address and understand that, I think sometimes it can be polarizing, because all farmers want to do good, right? They have built their production based on what they've been told to do, right? We've bought into this whole, we need to feed the world, and the commodity, the row crop structure is a huge part of that, right? That's what's brought stability to helping address world hunger and all of these things. And so we built that system out of good intentions, and now it's just time to maybe alter it to work more within the system, right? To correct the system like we do in nature. But sometimes I now understand how that can feel like an attack when you start that conversation. So I appreciate you bringing up the identity of what it means to be a farmer, because I think some people that don't participate in it, it's hard for them to even understand that piece. So, well, in your post, you also talked about the carrot instead of the stick. How have you, what do you see about that? Why, and do we need to incentivize landowners? How can we to get the type of system that we all want?
I mean, I'm someone that just prefers the carrot over the stick. And I think all farmers will also prefer the carrot over the stick. And that was something I always kind of used as my approach when I would go to farmers and talk about conservation practices, is because I think it was a year or two ago, what was happening in the EU and what was happening in France and Germany was very scary. And I don't think a lot of people followed it, but it was very alarming how things were just abruptly changed and farmers had no choice in it whatsoever. And I don't want that to happen. I really don't want that to happen, but that means there's going to have to be buy-in, and there's going to have to be local buy-in, and we're going to have to start making that change. I don't know. I think with what happened in Europe, it seems like that always slowly comes to the U.S. And I would give us like 10 years before I'm like, we need to have that carrot in front of everyone's face first. Because I'm not for regulation, but I also understand that there are issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we talk a lot with people across the country, and we've had other watersheds that have come to us that do have regulation in other watersheds, and they are still not reaching their goals, right? And so for conservation to truly work, it needs to be part of the entire system and part of the bottom line. And so we really focus on like, what does that holistic change that needs to happen? But there is a whole industry out there trying to figure out, how do we make this part of the business bottom line for conservation? So it's super fascinating.
Yeah. So the task of addressing water quality is also something that can feel overwhelming at the individual level, but you say that it's our responsibility as a community, and that's a community burden to take on. So what recommendations or advice do you have for those who want to play a bigger role in the larger community solving our soil and water health in the state?
I mean, everyone has an ability to impact it positively. I think sometimes we like to point the fingers at farmers and say, it's the fertilizers, the chemicals getting in our water system, and then we have to treat it. Absolutely. There is that going on for sure. But there's also like spraying your lawn with excess nitrogen so it's extra green. It doesn't need to be that green. And unfortunately, sod does not have like hardly any water infiltration. So whatever you're spraying on your yard, when we get those heavy rains, those are all ended up in the stormwater system. So you're creating the same problem, just on a much micro level. But it is a good comparison, because that's kind of the same issue that we're having in the agricultural side, because our soil health is very poor and we're not having good water infiltration when we do get those rains. So that water is getting shunted off on the surface and then goes into our water systems. Same thing is happening in your lawns. But it is all our responsibilities. It's a resource. I was just in Utah the other week, and it just cracks me up whenever I go to the West when they talk about like how there's actually times of the year when it is illegal to have a rain barrel and collect water, because it is such a resource in those states that it needs to go to the reservoirs, because that's where they pull their water from year round. They are not allowed to capture water. And here in Iowa, we're like, dang, it rained too much. Like, get it out of here. It's a problem. You know, tile everything. And I'm just like, no, we just need to better utilize the resource, because it is a precious resource. Every year that we have a drought, everyone's always freaked out about it. So let's treat it as such. And it's everyone's responsibility, because we all need it to live. No living organism can live without water. So treating it with the respect and understanding of the quality of it is just as important as how we manage it, I think is just a good start. And everyone has the ability to make an impact.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a tremendous generational shift happening right now in the ag sector. Tell us a bit about the sentiment of conservation around your peers, and what can you tell us about the next generation and conservation in ag?
It's really interesting. I love that question, because I find it very interesting right now. A lot of because sometimes you get in your own little echo chamber and you're like, oh yeah, this seems to be the majority, but like you're kind of in your own echo chamber, so you don't always know. But I have friends all over the board in terms of people that are still farming the same way their dad did and their granddaddy, and they think cover crops are a scam, all the way over to like the most conservative hippie friends that like, you know, are drinking kombucha right now as we speak. Like, I have friends all across that board. So it is really interesting to see just the different sentiment towards conservation. I would argue, though, it is positively headed in the right direction. I have some friends that are starting to see that even if they want to do the traditional, conventional practices, they're recognizing that some things are not working. And they recognize that the agriculture system isn't as much of a free market maybe as what they have been told it was. So they're getting a little bit more creative and a little bit more curious about ways to solve some of these problems and other options that they have within the agricultural space. I just had a friend the other day message me. I was making fresh milled wheat bread, and he's like, "Where'd you get it from?" I'm thinking about growing some. He was wanting to plant some. And I just love that thought process of like, oh, we can grow other things other than corn and beans. Oh, we can raise livestock differently than in a CAFO, a confinement, or certain other systems. Like, there are other ways that other people are doing things right now in this state, and they're making it work. And some of those ways are positively impacting our resources. They're positively improving water quality and soil health, things like that. So I see it in a more positive shift. My friends that are really on the conservation train are rock stars. And I think some of those people are just going to be some of the leaders that we're going to see in these next few generations. They're just passionate. And some of them come from a conventional agriculture side. Some of them come from the same thing I did, where they're like, this is what it is, and I believe it. And then all of a sudden we just started asking questions and looking into things. And we're like, you know what? We got to do what's best for this state. If that's the bottom line and that's the goal, I want to do what's best for my family, my local community, my community at large, and then my state and my state's economy, I can recognize that we're in trouble. And so can they. But it's just having that conversation of, okay, what are solutions then? And what does that look like? But I see it moving in a more positive line.
So, you know, our audience is a really diverse group of people that care about conservation. They may be, you know, 3 or 4 generations removed from the farm. They may be on the farm right now. They might be from the finance sector. They might be from the tech sector or within ag. If there was one message that you could give to all of those different people or some sign of hope, what would that message be?
Like on the ag side, the health side, like in anything?
Anything.
Advocate for yourself.
Yeah. So tell me more about that.
No one's gonna do it for you.
Yeah.
Period. Whether it's your health, whether it's your family, your community, you have to advocate for yourself. And right now in this state, because of some of the issues we're facing with some of our natural resources, it is time to advocate for your family and the future of the state and recognize that your water quality does matter. And we are not okay with poor water quality because of the impacts it has. We are not okay anymore with growing a ton of food that's, you know, we feed the world, but less than 5% goes towards human food products.
Right.
That conversation's always kind of fun. But just recognizing that you're going to have to be the one to advocate for yourself, no matter what it is. And no one's coming to save you, you know, not to Mel Robbins or anything, but like, it's true. And I've just discovered that more and more, that like, just build up that strength and recognize you're going to have to advocate for yourself and for things like natural resources, because they're also not speaking up for themselves either. So just be the Pocahontas that you need to be. And, you know.
I love that.
Have you seen yourself somewhat become an advocate for people that don't maybe have as large of a voice? I mean, you have, like I said, a big platform now. How has that shifted for you, going from, you said you started during COVID, making content just for fun, and now you have this platform where you have a voice others don't? Do you kind of see yourself as an advocate for those people now?
I love when people are interactive with my stuff, because then they are also letting me know what they think and what their perspective is and what their experience is. And if they don't have a platform and they're not sharing about it, it's like, well, how's anyone going to know that this is your experience with it, or that this is your story? So yes, I do love it when people reach out and I can get to know someone just through social media. Even more fun when you like meet someone through social media and then you get to meet in person and then you just like make new friends. I made so many friends that way across the nation. It is awesome. So much fun. But yeah, I definitely think a lot of people have things to say and are concerned about the same things we are. They just don't always talk about it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, any final thoughts before we go into our final sort of portion of the program where we use our whiteboards?
Not really. I think it's important what you guys are doing, though. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we have this segment every podcast. It's called Let's Whiteboard It, because we like to take complex problems and whiteboard them out.
Yes.
So today's Let's Whiteboard It is several years ago, one of our stakeholders described the Great Outdoors Foundation as Happy Disruptors. That's where the name of the podcast came from. What qualities do you think makes an individual or an organization a happy disruptor?
We just write it down.
You can write it or you can draw it if you're feeling very creative and show us your art
Then
skills.
do you guys have to guess?
Oh, we could do a Pictionary.
We'll turn it into Pictionary. So while you guys are whiteboarding it out, we're going to thank you guys all for being here, and please subscribe and share this podcast and other episodes. And we're just so thankful for you being here today, Joy.
Thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
Every so often I try to draw and then I realize why.
Why you just write.
Why I'm not an artiste.
If my mom ever sees this, she's not going to be proud of my art. She's an artist. She's going to be like, that's,
oh, really?
That's all her father in that. But, we try.
I'm the same way. My mom is also an artist,
fun.
and she's like incredibly talented. And I'm like, stick figure.
And you know what? That's all right.
Yeah.
We all have our strengths.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Are you ready for us to guess?
I am.
Okay.
I did this like a hangman thing. So I give you the first
Oh,
word,
I like
and then
this.
you have to guess the second one based off my really bad picture.
Okay.
Do I show it to the camera?
Yes.
Oh, man.
More.
Okay.
So the top word says free, if you can't read my handwriting.
No, we definitely can. It's good.
Do you want us to like guess letters or just what it is? Is it free
Well, just-
choices?
No.
Free markets.
No.
Now I'm trying to think of letters that match the amount of letters that you have here and what words those make. Ideas? I mean, it's a light bulb. I don't know.
You're close.
Okay.
You're close on like that same concept.
I don't know.
You're going to have to
You're
tell
gonna
us.
have to
We're
tell us.
terrible at this.
Free thinker.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, yes, that's good.
I think that's key. If you're going to be a happy disruptor, you have to be willing to be a free thinker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
and question the status quo, question what you're hearing,
Yeah.
question conventional wisdom. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, mine is somewhat similar. I said bold ideas, but you also need a big heart.
Yes.
I feel like you have to be able to break into a space, but also approach it with grace, with mercy, with all of the necessary humanity that needs to be involved in that.
Yeah, I love that. I tried to draw my pictures and I have green, which doesn't show up well. So one of the things that I just love about your content and then just you as a person is your natural curiosity. And I think that asking those questions and having the curiosity, I think just makes us be able to have better conversations. So I love that. And then a book,
Yeah.
that is a book, being an open learner, right? Going and finding those things and taking in new information. And then being open to other ideas with other people. So, yeah.
Awesome.
We just solved the world. I
We
think.
did, right?
We did.
There, yeah.
This
Just
is
take
why we
these three
love
whiteboards.
whiteboards.
All before 2 o'clock.
All we need is some caffeine and a whiteboard.
Exactly.
Some comfy chairs.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Will you tell everyone your or we could put them in here, but
yeah.
tell
Yeah, your
everyone your
handles.
social
They can
media
follow
handles.
Joy of all trades on Instagram. I am on Facebook and TikTok mainly. I do have a YouTube. I don't do a ton on it, but Joy of all trades.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Follow
Such a
her
fun name.
content. You'll be informed and entertained all at once.
That's the idea.
We were talking about your detox segment the other day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, which one?
All your like low talk swaps for
Oh,
your house.
yeah.
I'm getting
That's a
into
great
that. So,
one.
yeah. It's very
I'm passionate about it. And I just think there's so many little things that people could do that make such a
Yeah.
big impact. So it's like, just look into it.
What
Yeah.
was the one you did the other day after that?
I got rid of all my plastic cutting boards, which is
Good
a really
for you.
low grade swap, but it
No,
needed
but
to
it's-
happen.
it's very impactful.
Yes, and then I got rid of all of my nonstick pans.
Heck yeah.
So yeah,
Good for you.
And when I need more, I'll be in your inbox. What does Joy want me to do?
What else can I do? I'm out of dish soap. What do you
What do you want me to do? Whatever Joy says. Yeah,
That kills me. I love it.
yeah, it's been great.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you follow Joy. We'll talk to you later.